this has really been an important, I think, and profound dream. It's big. It's a big one. Well, welcome, dreamer. Welcome to
Hi,
Please Tell Me Your Dream. So glad to have you.
thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So tell everyone just a couple of things about yourself so we can kind of ground that for you.
Sure. I'm a new mom. I have a 6-month-old baby. I live in Texas and I enjoy the outdoors and I'm a really big animal lover.
Okay. And so, without any delay, please tell me your dream.
It's a little bit complex and it jumps around, but this is what you do, so I'll trust the process. So the dream starts off back where I went to college, and I'm at one of the concerts that I used to go to. And one of the band members is kind of flirting with me at the show. And we end up going to a party that is at my house where we were in college. And the house doesn't look familiar to me though, but I have an understanding that it's where I used to live when I was in college. And then we get some adverse weather and there's some flooding in the bathroom. And people at the party keep trying to go to the bathroom in there. And I'm telling them, hey, it's flooded. Like, there's rising water in there. You can't go in there. And nobody's really listening to me. And then my family and my now husband are there, and I'm taking them on a tour of the house. And for some reason, there's these big clear plastic bags full of stuff that would be in a crawfish boil because I live close to Louisiana. And I remember thinking, this is a safety hazard. Like, there's going to be rats in here. Why is all this crawfish in bags up here? We need to get it out. And nobody's really acknowledging it, and no one really agrees with me. No one sees it as a big problem. And I'm just like, what's going on here? So I think it's gross, but nobody else does. And then I go into my room and I'm alone, and I see that band member there that came to the party with me. And I have this old kind of like iron bed, and he starts saying explicitly sexual things to me. And I'm very upset, and I avert my gaze and I look over, and my dog Bowser is there. And at first, I can't believe my eyes and I can't believe he's there. But then I exclaim, "Oh, it's really you. You're here. Thank goodness." And he starts wagging his tail and he thumps his little tail like he was in the habit of doing when we were up there. That was kind of our spot. So I hold him and I touch him the way that I always would. And then it kind of flashes forward to where me and my family are at this restaurant, and everyone's surrounding me, and I'm trying to like look nice because I'm in public, but I'm too big for all of my clothes and nothing fits me. And everyone seems to be irritating me, telling me what to do or trying to talk to me, and I just want to be alone. And I'm telling everyone, just leave me alone, stop it. And people keep trying to touch me and tell me that I look good, but I'm like, no, I don't feel that way. And I keep trying to escape from my family. And when they find me, I scream. And for some reason, I don't want to be around anyone. There's another part to the dream where I'm back in that house in college, and there's a room full of babies, and this lady is trying to get all these babies adopted out. And then I go to a different room and there's all these wild animals, and I'm trying desperately to keep them happy and safe, but I'm also surprised they're there. I'm like, how am I going to take care of all these wild animals? And that's kind of where the dream ends. It's kind of a crazy one.
Oh gosh, Dreamer, that's got so many elements in it that are going to be very interesting for us to talk about. And I think we can do a lot with this. I really
Okay.
do. I made a few notes, so
Sure.
I may refer to those a little bit. So this dream has a structure that is very common in dreams, and that is it's a three-act play.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to have a an act one, an act two, and then
Mhm.
an act three. The act one is the college place, the
Mhm.
band, the flirting. Then there's this house, this safety hazard, the concern about rats.
Mhm.
Then it seems to shift. Right. Did it shift to a different house?
We end up going to that restaurant, and that's where everyone is trying to talk to me and
Uh-huh.
surround me. But then we end up going back to the house that I went to school in a
Right. Okay. So there's the first house and all the action that happens there, including the kind of uncomfortable interaction with that band member.
Mhm.
At least from your point of view as the dreamer, it seemed like an uncomfortable interaction. And then that was the encounter with Bowser, was
Mhm. Yeah.
shortly after that. And then to the restaurant.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then back to the house.
Yeah, and they may have been in different order, but as I was writing it, I kept remembering more things. So
Uh-huh.
the things that happened at the house at the end very well of could have been the second act. So
Okay. That's fine. We're going to take it as you told it. And you can rearrange that order as you continue to work on it after our work together. You can keep thinking about each of these, but I think this is very, very important stuff. Okay. So did you in fact recognize the band?
yeah, it was a band that I listened to when I was younger. Do you want me to tell you the name of it?
Well, first I'm going to say, let's talk about college
Okay.
because this dream took you back to college.
Mhm.
Okay. And tell me about what your college experience was like. Was this and what you learned, what you majored in, what just say a few things about your college experience.
I absolutely loved it. I lived around all of my friends. We'd bike around to each other's houses. It was a bit of a party school, but I did well in school. And I majored in kinesiology, which is the study of like biomechanics of the human body.
I didn't spell that right, did I?
That's okay.
Close.
Kinesiology. There you
Okay.
go.
All right. So this has to do with the body
Hmm.
and the mechanics of the body.
Yeah. And
Okay.
anatomy and fitness and all those kind of things.
And fitness. Okay. And there was a lot of social going on,
Hmm.
it sounds like.
Yeah.
And overall, it was a very positive
Oh, yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
Okay. So often, not always, but when our dreams take us back to college or high school or even lower grades than that, when we are taken back to school, often, not always, and this is something for you to weigh in on here, that we are being asked to remember something that we learned,
Okay.
whether it was our formal education or what we learned, as we worked out our social relationships
Okay.
and who we were going to be and how we were going to function in the world. Whatever we learned in college, often our dreams will take us back to school.
Hmm.
So we either remember something that we learned then that we need now,
Hmm.
because our dreams won't take us into the past for no good reason. Our dreams take us into the past in service to the present, and even more importantly, in service to the future. So it's either something you need to that you didn't learn, and maybe you can think about that, or it was something you did learn and need to remember.
Okay.
And
Do you
that's
want me
what,
to comment on my thoughts on that? What I think it is?
yes, please.
I think that was one of the times that I was the happiest in my life. And I think it's a sign that I need to remember that and to kind of be that happy again.
Amen, sister. I think you got it. Yep, absolutely. Okay. With that being the foundation of the dream, right? That's the foundation of the dream. This is starting to feel like a very positive dream. Now, tell me the name of that band.
Surfer Blood. I kind of liked a lot of indie bands when I was younger.
Surfer Blood.
Yeah.
Okay. And this was an indie band.
Mhm.
And when you say an indie band, can you tell an old woman like myself what exactly that means?
Just kind of not mainstream music, not something that you'd hear on the radio. It's kind of underground.
And can you characterize that type of music they played? Was it
Yeah.
like folk music, or was it hard rock, or was it metal, or what was
Kind of
it?
like surfer punk.
Surfer punk. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. And could you identify the band member?
No,
It
I
was
just knew it was someone from that band.
okay. And tell me what was so great about this band and what made you love them so much? What feeling did their music sort of inspire in you? Or when you heard your favorite song from them, what was the feeling of it?
It was a nostalgic feeling, like a youthful time in my life, full of dopamine and, just, music kind of hits you different when you're younger and growing up. So it was a good feeling. It felt like I was back to who I was.
Which really echoes this too, right?
Mm-hmm. Because that was around I was listening to that in college.
Yeah. All right. Again, this is laying the foundation for the rest of the dream, and that is remember this. Remember this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. How does that sound to you?
That makes sense.
Good. Good, good, good. All right. Now, let's talk about can we put together two things? The band member was flirting with you and the first part of the dream, and then a little bit later in that part of the dream, it got uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It got kind of weird.
Yeah.
It seemed to. So this is a band member, and it's a guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a man, and he
And at
brings.
first,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
at first I was kind of excited. I was like, ooh, I feel young again. Maybe he has a crush on me. But then things got uncomfortable once the scene happened where I was in my old bed.
All right, now a couple of and he's not identified.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so an interesting way to approach this dynamic in a dream are a couple of things. First, when men show up in women's dreams, sometimes but not always, the masculine aspect within a woman's personality has to do with getting things done in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Getting out in the world, getting things done, setting goals, achieving the goals, making plans, setting boundaries is very important, exercising good judgment, thinking rationally, thinking logically, all of that belongs on the masculine side. And it is often represented in our dreams by the men in our dreams. It's especially easy to think of it that way when it is not someone that you know personally.
Okay.
If it's somebody you know personally, then there's a whole layer on top of what I just said that has to do with your relationship with that person.
Okay.
But because this is an unknown, he's a band member, but he's affiliated with Surfer Blood, which has got all of this positive associations with it, right? So that flirting moment, which is that what I heard you say was that there was this kind of, I don't want to put words in your mouth, kind of a spark that
Like,
happened.
yay, how exciting.
That's what he's there for. There's something in your psyche that needs a spark. And the fact that he's a musician, meaning he's in the creative world, something about creativity, something about remembering your own creativity, the creative spark.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right. He's inviting you, right? He's like, hey, remember this? This is good stuff. And it's interesting that it becomes uncomfortable. It gets too close. It gets too something. That is something for you to be thinking about in the days and weeks to come. Something about what that might be. What is uncomfortable about getting back in touch with your own vital spark, your own creative spark. Okay, so there's another layer to this that I'm going to propose, and you are free to comment on this or not. But sometimes when this happens, when we get a little bit of a sexual tension in a dream, especially from someone who is kind of cool, kind of attractive, and is holding that, there might be a spiritual aspect to this dream. I know that sounds so weird. However, I don't know the state of your spiritual life, but it may be a call to get back in touch with that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So just for instance, in our Christian traditions, and really this is found in traditions around the world and through time, but in our Christian traditions, in our Christian scripture, there is a book in the Bible called the Song of Solomon. And the Song of Solomon is such an unusual thing to find, right? It's almost right smack in the middle of our Bible. And it is a long, very sensual poem. It's a love poem between the lover and the beloved, the bride and the bridegroom. And it is magnificently beautiful. And it's pretty sexy, if you want to know the truth.
I'll have to read it.
I'll
have to read it.
Yeah. And it has been referenced by Christian mystics through the ages as representative of the divine longing for us and us longing for the divine.
Okay.
And so when a little hint of that shows up in a dream, we might ask ourselves, where am I spiritually? Am I connected to something deep, divine in myself? Or am I connected with that which gives life to the world? Am I connected with that? Because we are always being flirted with by the Holy Spirit, if you want to put it that way, if you want to use that language.
Yeah.
And, getting close to that can be uncomfortable.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, because it's very intimate. And if we're very guarded around things, then that can be, it can feel like, ooh, no, can't. Yeah. But that's okay. That's all right. Okay. How does that ring with you?
Well, on many different levels, I think the spirituality thing makes sense because, I had my baby and I don't go to church, but I know I need to get him baptized and I need to start establishing myself with a church. And the other aspect was about, flirting with that person and what did you say was the first part about the man? Not the spiritual aspect? Because there was like dichotomy. It's the spiritual aspect and then
Oh, this masculine aspect of getting stuff
Masculine.
done in the world.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So I guess that kind of goes into that getting him baptized again is getting that
Mhm.
done. But that's what that comes to the surface for me
Uh-huh.
right
I
now.
would also suggest also that there's an inner aspect to this, as well as getting back established in a church, getting the baby baptized. You know, these are outward and visible signs, right? But
Mhm.
there's an inner aspect as well that's being called into being. And let's go back to the dream real quick, because that flood in the bathroom.
Mhm.
Let's talk about bathrooms for a second.
Mhm.
What's your association with bathrooms?
Going to the restroom.
So elimination.
Right.
Okay. Anything else?
Privacy, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, that's where very personal things are done in private.
Right.
Often bathrooms are inner rooms in our house. You know, they're inner rooms. They're not public rooms. They're inner rooms. You know, one of my bathrooms doesn't even have a window. It's such an inner room.
Mhm.
So often a house will be the stand-in for your psyche itself.
Mhm.
And therefore a bathroom becomes a very private interior space within you.
Okay.
So that's one idea around a bathroom.
Mhm.
And I think that's, you know, what's going on inside of you.
And it was flooded and people kept trying to use it, and I was trying to tell everyone you can't, because we had some bad weather and there was a leak or something.
So what does flooded suggest to you?
Maybe like a burden.
Burden?
Yeah. I have a fear of floods.
What makes it fearful for you?
One time I almost got caught in floodwaters in a car, and I could hear the
Oh,
waves kind of lapping under the vehicle, and I just remember feeling panicked. Like I needed to get out.
wow, that is very frightening.
Yeah.
Wow,
Something that
wow.
stayed with me, and that's kind of when I first moved to Texas, and it's kind of affected me since then.
I bet that's traumatic. And in the real sense of that word, that's traumatic. And so to feel flooded, to feel panic, to feel get out, and then in the dream, no one listened.
Yeah.
Do you have the sense that they thought it wasn't that big a deal? Or do you have a sense they were just oblivious completely,
Or they were just ignoring me.
ignoring me? Okay. So there are two ways to think about this. We can think about this as an interior issue, of something going on in your own psyche, where the I of the dream is ego, my ego,
Mhm.
right? And other parts of the psyche are absolutely ignoring ego and ego's point of view. The other way to, and that can be worked with. The other way to think about it though is this being echoed in any kind of way in your outer life?
Okay.
Also, the idea of flooding, we use this term in therapy and psychology, and in therapy. We use this term flooded when people become overwhelmed with emotion. They become flooded.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that might, I mean, based on your history with this, that might mean something to you, and
Yeah.
that no one's listening.
Yeah. Well, also the fact that I have a new baby and that can be very stressful. And, coupling that with the passing of my dog 2 weeks before he was born, just there's a lot of emotion in the past 6 months for me.
Absolutely. That is an excellent association. The new baby and Bowser
Mm-hmm.
and all of the emotion that went with that. Okay. There's so much in this dreamer.
I know. I told you it was a complicated one, but
There's so much.
you're getting a mental workout, I'm sure.
No, this is great. I love the work that we're doing right now, and I hope it's getting somewhere with you. I hope
Yeah, it's insightful and it's very interesting.
Oh, good. Okay. So here are the clear bags with the crawfish remains or the stuff to make crawfish, right?
Yep.
And you're trying to show this to the family.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are these crawfish remains or are they like the
They're like the
seasoning?
live ones that are,
Oh,
getting ready to be cooked.
oh, okay.
That's a thing down here.
Yes.
Me.
Well, it's a thing here too.
Okay.
I'm in Mississippi. We do that. What are your associations with these crawfish?
Well, I went to a crawfish boil for the first time and it was all right. I didn't get it. I don't get why people love the crawfish, but it's also just a new experience.
Okay. So that was a new experience,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a meh experience, apparently.
Yeah, I don't get the hype. It's a lot of work for that tiny little piece of sea bug or a mud bug, actually.
That is so interesting because that's what my husband calls them, mud bugs.
Yep.
And to me, that's exactly what they taste like. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in your camp though. I'm not a great fan. But was the experience socially, was the experience fun or
Oh yeah. Yeah. Socially, I had a great time.
okay.
It was a party. I met a lot of new people.
So what do you think? So there they were in the clear bags, alive. Also, they represent something. They're not very big,
Mm-hmm.
but they look like little shrimpy lobster
Lobsters.
crabs. They're kind of in that realm,
Mm.
and they come from underground,
Yeah.
which is really interesting. That's why they taste like mud, I think.
Yep.
They come from underground. So I'm going to suggest, and this is for you to think about, this is just me making a suggestion. They're called mud bugs. And sometimes when bugs show up in our dreams, or when these little creatures show up, like crabs show up, or little things, we can think of these as things within our own unconscious that are coming up from underneath. They're coming into consciousness. And your ambivalence toward them is really kind of interesting. They can't hurt you. They can't
Right.
really hurt you. There's a danger, though, that they'll attract even more. Yeah, the rats.
And I do have a fear of bugs, so I don't know if I'm associating them with the bugs.
Hmm. You might ask yourself, what's bugging me? Or what am I afraid of with this?
Mm-hmm.
And I hasten to add, we've all got bugs. Or where are my bugs? Where are my rats? We've all got bugs and rats in our unconscious, so to speak. These are parts of ourselves, if you want to say, that are kind of low level, instinctual, kind of primitive aspects of ourselves that are, coming into focus a little bit that we might need to pay attention to ask oneself, what's the safety hazard with this?
Yeah, and
Now,
I'm trying to get rid of them and nobody wants to.
and nobody wants to get rid of them. Nobody's listening, right? Is that right?
Right.
So once again, to ask yourself in your waking life, where am I not being heard? Where am I not being listened to? How are you not listening to yourself? How are you not, tuning into your own instincts and your own desires and your own self-care or whatever it may be? It could be both and there, not feeling listened to by the family, because this is who was there when you were coming to terms with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then listening to yourself and your own needs and your own instincts, if you will. So that's a direction to go in with this in the days and weeks to come, if you want to.
Yeah, perhaps an identity crisis, I'm thinking,
Okay.
along those lines.
Yeah, I like it. All right. How are we doing so far?
Good. We're
Great.
deep in it now.
Yeah, we are deep in it. Okay. Now, Precious Bowser comes, right?
Yeah, my best boy.
Oh.
And my best friend.
Just describe him for us. What kind of dog is Bowser?
He was a pit bull mix. He was pit bull and Dalmatian. He was all white. Personality wise, he was sensitive, highly intelligent. He was very in tune to me and my emotions, and our relationship was very close. It was like he was almost a person.
In this dreamer, he looks fantastic.
Yeah.
He's okay. Better than okay's wagging his tail.
Yeah. And he's the one who's kind of saying everything's okay when that guy is doing things that are making me uncomfortable.
Right.
He shows up to kind of, you know, distract me.
That is tremendously important.
Yeah.
A couple of things here. There's a whole layer of what Bowser meant to you. Also, dogs in our dreams. A dog is an archetype. Human beings and dogs have been bonding with one another for thousands of years. They may be the first, who can say, but they may be the first non-human parts of our family from thousands of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we have evolved together. People and dogs have evolved together. So they are archetypes. And what do I mean by an archetype? The idea of dogs being in our lives is as old and as universal as human beings, as long as human beings have been around. In every culture around the world, we have had relationship with dogs. They are an archetype. They are found in myths, legends, stories, again, around the world and in every culture.
Pretty pervasive in society.
Absolutely. One of the roles that dogs play for us in our dreams, especially the ones that we were absolutely at one with, they play the part, and this is a really fun word, they play the part of a psychopomp. What in the world is that? A psychopomp is a guide and a guardian of our own unconscious. They are a guide and a guardian. They play the same, dogs in our dreams play the same role in our own unconscious as they do in our waking life. They guard us. They are our guides and companions. And the fact that that Bowser comes in the middle of this dream and gives you this reassurance, especially when it's next door to that that encounter with the band member and all of the spiritual aspect that we proposed earlier. That's their job. Dogs in our dreams come to guide us to a deeper place within ourselves. And they are referenced, just two references of dogs in mythology, for instance. Cerberus in Greek mythology was the three-headed dog who guarded the underworld. Well, the underworld is the unconscious. And there was also the god Anubis in Egyptian mythology. He was the jackal-headed god, so he was a dog. And he was the god of the whole mummification process. He was a guardian of the underworld also. So that's part of their job. One of the most life-changing dreams I ever had was with an equivalent, my equivalent, Feather was her name, of Bowser. Best dog that ever lived, period. And when Feather showed up in my dreams, even after she had passed, that was a dream to pay attention to. She was bringing me somewhere. She was telling me something important about myself. She was me. She was a piece of my soul.
Yeah.
And
he
so
was kind of the calm in the storm of that stressful dream. That was probably the only pleasant part of the dream besides,
yes,
being at the concert.
So that is possibly the bigger, deeper meaning of Bowser. In addition to that, when we dream of our dogs and later the wild animals that show up, we are remembering our instinctual side. We're tapping into some instincts that we need again. We need our instincts. And, whatever attributes that those animals had might be of use and of service to you now. And we have to take care of that. We have to remember that. Often in our waking life, we get very cut off from our instincts, from our inner self. And sometimes in our dreams, they show up as wild animals or animals of some sort. They show up that way. Okay. All right. Now, I want to touch just so briefly on this idea of in the restaurant and this idea of wanting to be alone and feeling too big for your clothes. Now, you're a new mom. Is this an issue?
Yeah. Yeah, I gained about 40 pounds.
Well, here's an interesting idea. In addition to waking life concerns about getting back in my clothes after I have a baby, in addition to that, though, our clothes and our wanting to look nice, because I think you said that, I want to look nice. Our clothes and wanting to look nice touch on something called persona. That means how we come across in the world. Yes, it has to do with how we look in our clothes and how we style our hair and how we do our makeup and all those things. But it also has to do with our roles in the world and our personality. That's where the word personality comes from.
Okay.
And so I'm wondering if you've outgrown a persona.
Yeah.
You've outgrown a way of being in the world. For one thing, you've got a new role that you didn't have before.
Right.
And that, whatever happened, that expands us.
Yeah.
We're all the things that we ever were, and now we're this too.
Yeah.
So
I think that goes along kind of with the identity crisis thing as well.
Yeah.
Such a big change in my life.
Yes. This upends us. It just does. And
Yeah.
people don't even talk about it. It's
Right.
so profound.
Mm-hmm.
And people act like, oh, yeah, you had a baby.
Yeah. It's the biggest life change and the hardest thing I've ever done.
No question about it.
Mm-hmm.
This is terribly profound.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, in a way, you do have to get bigger in order to accommodate this new thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes along with that.
Yeah.
Now, this idea of don't touch me,
Mm-hmm.
what you reckon?
Just like everyone wouldn't stop like needing to be close to me and like trying to get at me, and I just wanted to be alone. I was just trying to escape.
Okay. Now, you don't have to answer this, but you might ask yourself, am I doing this? Am I running away from relationships? And do I need to do the opposite?
Mm-hmm.
It's not for you to answer right now, but this idea of the ego being isolated, maybe out of touch with an inner part of yourself or out of touch with folks in your life. I don't know. You get to decide. It could be both and, of course.
That makes sense.
Okay, good. Often what ails us most is that we are not in touch with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
That an ego, our sense of I, one of the real weaknesses, I guess, that's the wrong word, but one of the things we have to be careful of is our sense of I thinks we're in charge of everything, thinks I am in charge of everything, when actually these dynamics in the unconscious have a tremendous effect on us. We get flooded, for instance, and we don't have control over everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so to begin to touch in with different parts of ourselves, our inner strengths, or our inner intuitions, our inner instincts becomes very important. So
Yeah, I
that's
do think there's been a big loss of control becoming a mother as well, which kind of ties into that for me.
yeah, ego has to give over when we have a baby. When we have a baby, the ego gets knocked off of its place as number one because the baby has to come first.
Right.
And that's what makes this so profound.
Mm-hmm.
That's a profound change. And by the way, it's unique to those of us who gave birth. Yes, fathers have this too in a different way, but we were the ones who did this.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
pregnancy was difficult for me as well as,
I'm sorry.
big
Yeah,
life change. So
yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. Now, let's go back to the house and talk about those babies and wild animals.
yeah, there was a room full of babies.
And how old were these babies?
They were infants.
And then there was another room full of wild animals. Is that right?
Yeah.
And when you say wild animals, were they like woodland forest creatures or African?
Like lions and, kind of like exotic animals.
Ah, I have very, very good news for you.
Let's hear it.
Of course, this is referencing you taking care of a new baby now in your waking life. When babies show up in our dreams, it is proof that there is something new in our psyche, in the unconscious. There is something new. And when these guys show up in the unconscious, they bring with them all the energies that those animals have. And if you need lion energy, you've got it. If you need zebra energy, you got that too, or giraffe energy, or you take your pick. These wild exotic animals, whatever attributes you give them, you have that within you. Let's take lion, for instance, just talk about him for a second. What do you associate with lions, for instance?
Well, I'm a Leo.
Ah, fabulous. Okay.
Just being fierce and strong and dangerous.
Girl, you got it. You got that. It's in a room right now, but it's in there. You've got the capacity for fierce and strong and even dangerous.
Yeah.
Once in a while, we need a teaspoon of dangerous. It's
Mhm.
okay. But you've also got this, and this equals potential, as well as a comment on you taking care of your own baby.
Okay.
That plus Bowser looking so good in the dream and being so reassuring in the dream. For me, dreamer, this points in a very positive direction.
Great. Yeah. It felt stressful, but now that you're kind of breaking it down, I feel more peaceful about it.
Oh, excellent. I'm so glad. So overall, do you feel like we got somewhere?
Oh yeah.
Excellent.
I think I'm kind of learning a lot about myself and the recent struggles I'm going through, and I think it shows up in my dreams.
Oh,
Absolutely.
no question.
Hit the
Excellent.
nail on the head.
Yes. All right. And by the way, this dream will continue to talk to you. And the last part of our work together today is a very important element of this work is how to honor the dream. What that means is to have a response in your waking life to the dream itself or to any insight that you received today. Meaning to have a creative response, if you like, to make something, to draw something, to write something in response to this dream, or to get something as a representation of an element in the dream. For instance, that lion we just spoke of, if you've got a little representation of a lion, like, I don't know, my grandchildren have those little plastic,
Figurines.
animals, and to get a representation of that lion and just keep it near you for a little while as a way to remember the insights and the energy in the dream. Or
Okay.
choose some other element in there. Go get Surfer Blood
Yeah.
on Spotify and start listening, for
Mhm.
instance.
I have their vinyl. I can listen to it.
You've got vinyl? Cool. Okay. And you don't have to go to another crawfish boil, but
Yeah. I like the social aspect, but I'll pass on the mud bugs.
on the mud puck. Consider also going out and, for instance, go buy yourself a new outfit.
Yeah. I need to do that. I've been putting it off just because I'm like, well, I'll fit back in my old clothes eventually, but it hasn't happened.
It will. So get a lion, get a new outfit. These are just some suggestions, right? And listen to Surfer Blood. I would have loved to have been in the room when they came up with the name of their band.
Yeah. I'll have to look into it, the meaning behind it.
Okay. What do you think?
I think those are some good things. Definitely the new outfit will be some self-care. I'll try to channel that lion. I have a little glass animal, and I'll, take care of my old self by listening to some of that music to kind of honor that part of my life. I think that'll be really helpful.
This has really been an important, I think, and profound dream.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you bringing it. It's big. It's a big one. And so keep thinking about it.
Mm-hmm. I'll keep writing them down. And thank you for letting me do this with you. It was really fun. It was interesting. And you know, it brings a lot of emotions to the surface that you don't necessarily think about from the day to day, or give yourself a chance to think about.